Hello dear Quant Platform community, how are you doing? I'm really pleased to announce you that the world's first quantum-resistant Ethereum-compatible blockchain has just been launched by Quant, and it's been running for quite some time now. So actually this Ask Me Anything session will be mostly obviously about the testnet, about the features, what can you test, how to use it, and also the short-term future, what you can expect in the upcoming months and this year. So thank you very much for the team as well. They have compiled me an awesome list of all the questions and topics, so we can go through them in a very well-built way. It is really hierarchical and well organized. So most of you are using, I guess, MetaMask and stuff like that to manage your funds for your decentralized activities. So this is the first very important part, that you can test our testnet with the MetaMask integration, although it's quantum resistant, but we got plenty of questions for this one. So let's jump right in. So what is a testnet and what is it for? So, well, a testnet of any given blockchain project is it's like a pre-release. So this is the piece of software where the developers, in this case us, merge the features in, and it's not a problem if we break something. We can experiment with it, test the feedback, and pretty much do anything with it. So we can tweak the parameters. So this is the first phase of the testnet, which means that nodes are all across the planet, but they are managed by us. So this way we get insights into network latency and throughput and stuff like that. And in the next stage we will roll out the software. So each of you who are interested, developers or enthusiasts, you can run your own nodes at home or at obviously any given cloud data center as you wish. Next one, what can we test on the testnet? So this testnet is about three really important topics. One is, as I mentioned previously, the MetaMask compatibility, which is really unique given that we are also quantum resistant, which brings us and also me to the next point, that you can also test Quant's X-Link protocol, which allows you to use the MetaMask integration or essentially any other kind of integration, command line interfaces, SDKs specifically built for Ethereum, and just any existing tooling you might be possibly used to or working with. And you can run the X-Link daemon in the background, which will be essentially cross-signing your transactions with post-quantum security. So this is the second one, and the third one is obviously speed. So speed is really important here because, well, I didn't want to promote huge numbers, which couldn't be valid, obviously, in the long run, because I believe in transparency and honest communication, unlike most of the projects there. So this is also very important, that some of you might remember that we talked about a tool which is a fully open source speed-test tool, which we are releasing this year. So you can test any blockchain, I mean any EVM compatible blockchain for the true throughput speeds, and uncover many of the scams out there. So yes, again, to summarize, these are the three items being testable: the MetaMask compatibility, the quantum security, and the speed of it. Next one, when will it be fully functional? So, well, fully functional, I like to quote Mark Zuckerberg here, who said that Facebook will never be ready. So it's always evolving, always getting new features, and I have the very same feeling about Quant. But the first milestone to consider a blockchain fully functional in this era, in this stage we are in, is to include at least one virtual machine. Because even though it's fully functional now, I mean as in Bitcoin, so you can transfer cryptocurrencies, in the safest manner in today's standards, thanks to our quantum security. But yet what we are used to of these days, a virtual machine is definitely required. So that's the missing piece of the puzzle. Next question. If the testnet is running with EVM only, does it mean the testnet blockchain is currently an Ethereum clone, or is it running the Quant blockchain already? So, okay, let's clear up a couple things here first. So EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. So being Ethereum compatible and running the EVM are not the same thing. So we are conforming to the Ethereum RPC specifications, which means that we can integrate with most of the exchanges, SDKs, whatever out there. But if you try to upload a smart contract, try to interact with a smart contract, those functions are disabled. So it's not EVM only, it's no VM at the moment, so those parts don't work yet. But for the second part of the question, whether it's an Ethereum clone, no, it's not, and we are really proud of it that we are only reusing the RLP, so the recursive length prefix part from Ethereum and type definition. So that's it. So it's fully written by ourselves. So it's not your 20-second Ethereum clone you see many other projects running around with. Okay, next question. What did the previous partners test? What did the previous partners test when you only published the testnet now? So yes, back then we had entirely different products. So that was like most of the other blockchains currently on the market who promote quantum secure operation. But we were lucky to realize soon enough that there is no way we are gonna be able to get significant market share if we bring up a whole new API, if we bring a whole new RPC stack, and if we just try to reinvent the wheel. So we try to find this thin line and respect this thin line of legacy, which we need to incorporate into our solution. So essentially we have started building this brand new product instead of the old one. So that one, which was tested by the partners you see on the page decks, those were really simple private blockchains with quantum security, but we decided to ditch it because we saw the economics behind it, that it wasn't the way to go. Next question. I'm just a simple Quantize holder. How can I test it, or is it only for devs? No, it's definitely for everybody. So you will also, I'm just scrolling a bit here so I don't cover topics twice. So soon we will release the faucet, which means this is essentially an endpoint where you can request free tokens from the testnet, and you just input your wallet address and they will get delivered to you immediately, and you can add the network to your MetaMask and play with it. Test the speeds if you are a developer, but otherwise you can just transfer your tokens to whomever you wish. The only requirement, as I said previously, is to run Quant's X-Link, otherwise it won't let your transactions go through if it's not cross-signed with post-quantum cryptography. So next one, when are you launching LibraScan as the testnet blockchain explorer? So yes, we are heavily working on that one. I don't make hard promises here, but I would say a couple weeks at most. So it will be functional for the 90% of what people use it for. I mean, checking transactions, checking balances, viewing the blocks and stuff like that. That will be covered pretty soon. But as it's stated on the website and on the mission, it's a community build project. Obviously, we will give the kickoff to make it usable, so it's easy to deploy and anyone can use it. But I expect the fine-tuning to be done by the community. Okay. Let me read ahead a bit. Yes, so here are some statistics. So yeah, these are pretty nice numbers. So I would really like to thank you very much to the whole community. So we have grown quite a lot. We have reached 30,000 plus Twitter followers recently, and 22,000 plus Quannex token holders. So that's a solid plus 35% increase since our last Ask Me Anything session. And also thank you very much to our active crew members who are spreading the word on social media. So really thank you very much for your help. Let's get back to the main topics. Yes, here is a cover for all the main important parts. Yes, let's just do this for any of you who might be new around here. So what Quan is doing and how it's different from the competitors. So Quan platform is a game-changing layer 1 solution. So this means that it's not a token, not some kind of DeFi application which is built on top of some other platform like Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain. It lives on its own, so it's a self-sustaining platform. Quantum resistance is one of the key features, which means that we will be able to resist the threat from the upcoming quantum computers, as you might be very well aware of right now, because it's a really hot topic in the media. And we also have a hybrid blockchain model, which means that enterprises who are eager to try out blockchain and incorporate the principles of blockchain into their operations are able to run a private network inside their company and connect it with the public network, so they leave an audit trail. So in case they want to prove something, it's happened the way it did, then they have the ability to do so without giving out too much information or too much control to the public chain. Yes, with our solution, developers can build smart contracts, decentralized applications, DeFi solutions, non-fungible tokens, NFTs, whatever you are really used to. I mean, if you are into decentralized finance or blockchain, but the distinguishing factors are, as I told previously, quantum resistance and what might be even at least just as important, that you can build these things in any language you possibly know. So this is another way how we massively open up the adoption rate of blockchain and onboard many more developers than others can possibly do. Yes, some statistics about us. So we have been researching for quite some time. You can check our website, but I'm deeply into blockchain since 2016. We are now a team of more than 30 members from more than 10 countries across the globe who are actively contributing to Quan. So thank you very much to the whole team. I really love working together with you. It's an honor, really. Yes, among us there are many cryptography experts, developers, business specialists, advisors, so we really cover the whole spectrum, I have to say. Yes, there was a question about the dev team. The dev team consists of 13 members at the moment, but we are always scaling up. So if you feel like you could contribute, or this is something you could potentially add value to, then reach out to us, please. Thank you very much. So our vision is to live in a world where real and helpful applications are happening on the blockchain, and our mission is to empower anybody to build rapidly and securely on the blockchain. So obviously these two are tied together, and we believe this is the way to go. I mean, to help those who want to build, because I had to go through this path when I started learning Ethereum back then, because I just somehow felt that this is really the future. So I can thank enough for Ethereum for starting me on this journey. And and it seems it was a pretty smart choice, because I really feel that this is my passion. I mean, building decentralized distributed systems is really something you feel that you will leave here for the future. I mean, that a well-designed blockchain is architected in a way that it must not be dependent on its original authors and creators. So this is really something beautiful. So yes, this is what our vision and mission is. So we pursue this goal as much as we can. Yes, let me read ahead a bit. Yes, next part is the roadmap, and the most important part of it is QVM, so Quant's Virtual Machine, which is not a direct replacement of the EVM, but nevertheless compatible with it. So this is the biggest challenge to do so right now, to incorporate QVM, which is a virtual machine capable of running software written in any language, which can be compiled down to be able to run on a Linux kernel, to expose this interface so in a way that it's compatible with Ethereum transactions. I mean, calling certain contracts functions via Ethereum transactions. And the questions related to this, I mean, QVM, are: first one, why main layer 1 blockchains Ethereum, Solana have restrictions with coding languages? How do you explain that you are the only one to have found a way to be multi-languages? Well, I guess we are a bunch of smart people. So the core problem why other blockchains have really limited coding languages, if you take a look at how Ethereum started out, so the EVM is a pretty simple virtual machine. So it's Turing complete, which means that given enough resources like time and in this case transaction fees and such, you can compute virtually anything on it. So this was a huge jump forward from Bitcoin, which I wouldn't call that a VM. You could write some kind of scripts on Bitcoin for certain operations, but it was nowhere near Turing complete. So this was a huge jump from Ethereum. But in order to be deterministic, the instruction set which it can support are quite low. So if you take a look at other projects, they are now trying to incorporate WASM, so which is WebAssembly, which is a good approach, but we could even step one step further. And we actually did a virtual Linux kernel, so it implements more than 90% of the Linux syscalls, and it's written by us, and all the factors leading to non-deterministic output have been stripped out from it. So a virtual machine is essentially nothing more than a deterministic state machine, and that is nothing less than, given the same state, I mean the current data, the current state of the blockchain, and some input data, it should always produce the same output. And this is what a VM is. So it receives the current state from the blockchain, it receives the input and produces the same output. So this is how it works. Next question, how will it look like coding in JavaScript, Python, PHP, .NET, Ruby, etc. in the future for the multi-language part? Will there be like a build framework, SDK, specifically for each language where people can build on top of? So yes, excellent question. From these languages, JavaScript for sure can be compiled down, and by compiling I mean that you can bundle a JavaScript runtime along with the code. So essentially, yes, you can build in JavaScript as well, and I'm pretty sure that about Python I have heard of such a solution, and most of these .NET for sure, these will be all doable. And as for the second question, whether there will be a build framework, software development kit, sure. So how the bare bones look like is that you have to supply a binary, which is essentially your contract, and it will receive raw bytes from a smart contract call, and it will also receive the state for given keys which have been predefined, and it should produce a state delta and write that state delta to output. That's again raw bytes. And what the SDK means that yes, sure, many people don't know how to work with a byte stream and how to parse it and stuff like that. So if you mean that by SDK, that for example, for every languages, will there be a software development kit supply to be able to parse the input and give ways to easily produce writing the output, then yes, sure, and it's not a secret that Quant will be itself who will be providing these. And that's because of, well, business, because as some of you might know that re-importing code in the Quant ecosystem results in royalties paid to the original authors. So if we write proper SDKs for the users, then they will, well, most likely use it. And in this case, the contract upload fees will be also lower for the developer, but those lower fees will be going to the authors, which we will do a really good job at developing very awesome SDKs for you guys. But this is nothing proprietely, so anybody can build SDKs, and if anyone else builds a better or more efficient SDK than us, then well, you are free to choose their solution, of course. Yes, and I see here in the notes that yes, there will be a bigger campaign launched targeted for developers and developer grant programs as well, so which promote the QVM release. So it will demonstrate how easy it is to build well, DEXs, DAOs, NFTs, metaverse solutions in any language you might possibly know. So yes, we will put a huge focus on this one as well. Next question. Why is the GitHub empty with only the CTO, I guess that's me, visible as a contributor? Why isn't any code published? So that's easy. We have 4 key intellectual properties, and we are working in a private GitLab for this matter. And if you think about it, Quant has zero intentions or interest in handing over the research results we have obtained with so much hard work on a silver platter. So I could show you guys, for example, job openings at the Ethereum Foundation. They are looking for lattice cryptographers. They have already hired some, I think, if I remember correctly. And this really is a race. I mean, this is coming, and most of the market players know that, and it's not just as easy as simply publishing everything. Sure, we will do so, and the mainnet launch is to gain trust, but so far it's really one against the other. So these are real world businesses, and it's not as simple as, it's not a hobby project anymore. So yes, we have to keep secure our findings, because this is the core value of what we are doing here. Next one, would you consider having developers signing NDAs to get early access to the source code? Well, it's not really feasible for us. I mean, I don't really see an interest in that. Although we had from a couple token buyers who insisted that they want to check out source code, and they did. And the most simple way we did it is that they send in their own trusted developer. Obviously, we signed the NDA, and they get access to a laptop which has all the ports glued in, and they are free to inspect the sources, build them, try them out as long as they want. And after a couple of days, they have written a report to the buyer that they have checked out the sources. So stuff like this works, but on an individual basis, of course. But just handing out the source code and getting some NDAs signed, unfortunately NDAs don't really work most of the time, but I guess most of you know that already. Next one. Are you aware that the lack of published code and software documentation is creating legitimate FUD amongst developers? Probably some illegitimate FUD from non-developers too. So yes, I can just reflect at my previous response. I do understand that, but given the testnet release, even though the source code itself isn't released, the cryptography behind it is solid, and you will see how Xlink works, that it just all makes sense. So if you believe that we were capable of coding quantum resistant algorithms into software code, which a couple other projects already did, so this is not some wizardry, then the principles behind it will check out. So there isn't really so much to believe, so to say, and by that I don't want to make our solution look smaller, because it isn't, because again, this is the world's first quantum resistant Ethereum compatible blockchain, but as soon as we reveal the puzzle pieces, it will all just click and it will make sense. So no need to look at the source code in itself, and this way we also keep our market advantage, and we will release them at mainnet anyway. So what matters on the other hand, that we get this 6 months or even 1 year market advantage with us by not letting other projects use our sources. Next one, product. Yes, so quantum cryptography. Could you explain in simple terms what does it mean, quantum resistant? Yes, I get this question a lot of times. So quantum resistance means that given a real-world quantum computer, which is already proven that they will be really efficient at solving discrete logarithm problems, which like 99% of our current cybersecurity depends on, they will be able to break those in linear time as opposed to exponentially hardening problems. And quantum safe or quantum resistant algorithms is nothing more but an algorithm which withstands such kind of quantum computing attacks in an exponential way. So we even have a demonstration about this on GitHub. Somehow I'll get the sources to you. I don't know how I could put it on this video, but we will put them in the comments somehow. That how RSA, for instance, becomes linear to tackle, whereas the shortest vector problem we are using remains exponentially hardening in case of quantum computing attack. So next question, what exactly must be quantum resistant of a blockchain platform? Excellent question. So blockchains are mostly, almost only, about proving digital identity. So there is no encryption taking place on most of the blockchains. So there are two key points where users are identified and they must present their digital identities. One is, when you try to execute any kind of transaction, I mean, you send money from point A to point B, or you make a transaction or interaction with any kind of smart contract, and this is one type. And the other type, where quantum resistancy or digital signatures in general are really important, is the validation process. So when you validate a block, you essentially sign it with your own key, reflecting that this block's rewards belong to you. So these are the two most important points where blockchain should be quantum resistant in order to be, considered quantum resistant. Next one. How much longer does it take to verify a post-quantum signature compared to an elliptical signature? So this is really funny because post-quantum signatures are much more efficient. Don't quote me on the exact figures here, but by a magnitude, like more efficient. The only downside is the signature sizes, on the other hand. So elliptical curve signatures are really small, really tiny, whereas post-quantum signatures are really huge. And there are also some other downsides, like where you can recover the sender's identity given the digest of the message they have signed and the signature itself. Whereas with post-quantum cryptography, you have to possess the public key already of the given senders to be able to make the comparison. And there are such bits, but to directly answer this question, post-quantum signatures are much more efficient from a computing perspective than elliptical curve signatures. Next question. Why can't existing blockchains switch their cryptography stacks just like other information systems? Very good question as well. So here you ask like other information systems. Well, other information systems are mostly controlled centralized. So this means that they can make a decision, flick a switch, and from tomorrow on, like let's take a look at TLS, for example, they can incorporate, any company can incorporate post-quantum signature cipher suites into their own TLS stack in-house. So there is no one preventing them, and from tomorrow on, boom, they have post-quantum crypto. With blockchains, on the other hand, it gets really much more difficult. Even so difficult that if I was given the task to migrate Ethereum, Bitcoin, you name it, your favorite chain to post-quantum security, I wouldn't be able to do it, to be honest. So we just got lucky here that we can roll out with post-quantum crypto from block 0. And you will see this very well with the testnet, how it works. Because the thing with blockchains is that it's decentralized, right? So if you want to make such a change, then you will be facing some tough decisions. One is that what can you do with people who don't migrate? Are they gonna lose their funds, or do you leave a migration window open in which you will risk that quantum computers, hackers or attackers with access to quantum computers can steal other people's money? Or what's gonna be the hard decision you're gonna make, because you will have to make one. This is the key here. And even if you play this scenario in your head that okay, there will be an announcement that yes, quantum computers will pose now a significant threat and everybody should migrate to post-quantum wallets. Let's even say and consider that everybody understands what this is going on about. Let's even go further and think that everybody will be also capable of doing the transitions. There will be lots of wallets out there who people already have lost the private keys for, don't have the mnemonic phrases. So essentially they don't have access to their own funds somehow. And what do you do with those? Because otherwise hackers would steal them as well, and there will be so much free money on the market, so to say, especially from the early days. If you think back then, where you could mine 50 bitcoins with a shitty laptop any evening when you felt like it, because there were so few miners. So there are some very thick wallets with a lot of money on it, who people just lost the keys for already. So it will be a nice play. I am really interested how this will play out. But again, to answer the question directly, it's not easy. I mean, I couldn't do it to migrate an already running chain. It's not centralized. So this is the bad part of decentralization, that you cannot make a centralized decision like this and roll with the new settings from tomorrow. Next one. What is the difference between quantum security and zero knowledge proofs? Okay, so these two things are entirely different. So zero knowledge proofs is about proving, for example, that you own something or you have access to some data without revealing the data itself. So this is why it's zero knowledge, because you are able to prove something without revealing that very thing that you're trying to prove. And quantum security, again, quantum security itself is really broad, but that's about security, so cryptography mainly. Well, zero knowledge proof was also about cryptography, but again, these are really completely separate topics. Next one. Quan will protect the seed phrase from quantum brute force. Okay, so quantum won't brute force, it's not the way it works, but again, the seed phrase itself is protected, because the way you get your private keys from a seed phrase is a one-way operation with hashing, and those hashes are not that much exposed to quantum vulnerabilities. So given the chain goes like this: you have your mnemonic seed, you extract some entropy from it. From that entropy, you derive private keys. From those private keys, you derive public keys. From those public keys, you derive your addresses where you receive your money. So there are quite a few steps from a mnemonic phrase to obtaining your address. And the only part, the only single part where quantum computers will have a great influence, let's say so, is that they will be able to reverse one operation, that being the computation of the public key from the private key. So this whole chain I just presented should always go only one way. And quantum computers can compute the private keys from the public key. So this will be the only part of this chain which will be reversed, and that's catastrophic enough. I'm pretty sure you understand that given a public key, I can essentially compute your private key. Essentially, I can spend your money then. So, but further ahead, so from the private key back to the seed phrase, that part won't work, but that unfortunately doesn't save you. Okay, next one. How can you claim that you are quantum resistant without a hardware on the market? So I would reflect back to a previous answer of mine here, where I said that we have it on GitHub, a demonstration about RSA and a simulated quantum computing attack. And essentially, you don't need the hardware itself, you just need to prove the principle. And the principle is that RSA used to be, and I mean still is if we take quantum computers out of the equation, an exponentially hardening problem. And what this means in practice is that if you double the key size of the algorithm, then the effort required to break it would be increased to the quadruple. So it's an exponential increase given the increase of the key size. And quantum computers will linearize this. So if you double the key size, you will only need double the qubits, which is considered catastrophic for any kind of cryptographic algorithm. And our solution remains exponential. So this is all you need to prove, even with we decrease the key sizes on purpose, so we can demonstrate it that yes, RSA will break and how it breaks, while our solution maintains its properties related to exponentially hardening. Next one. How is the quantum resistance feature of Quant platform going to be demonstrated on testnet? So yes, this is about Xlink. So Xlink is a long-running daemon which you can run on your laptop, desktop, any kind of server, in the future also on your mobile phone. And it has the sole purpose to cross-sign your transactions. So this means that if you start a transaction on your mobile phone, MetaMask, laptop, wherever, with elliptic curve cryptography, it won't go through unless you have an Xlink instance somewhere running behind, which is cross-signing that transaction for you, for that very given address. Otherwise, even if you have enough funds on the account, even if obviously you are in possession of the private key related to it, it still won't go through unless there is a quantum signature coming from Xlink as well. Okay, next question. How can you be quantum resistant and use MetaMask in the same time? So excellent question, and yes, I kind of covered it in the previous answer. So MetaMask doesn't even know that that the transaction wouldn't be accepted otherwise. So this is what the testnet is about, so feel free to test it. Try to send a MetaMask transaction without running Xlink. You will get an error message back that one Xlink wasn't found for the transaction, and it will be rejected because elliptic curve signature alone is not going to cut it in our model. So, but as soon as you make a cross signature with Xlink, the MetaMask transaction will just fly. Next question. If in the future other powerful company beside IBM release, let's say a 10,000 or 100,000 or even 1 million qubit or even more computer, will Quant platform lattices method resist such mighty computers? So back to the previous question, the thing is all about the mechanism. I mean, whether it's linearly hardening problem or exponentially. So obviously, if I can bring you an example with RSA. So there were days when we considered 512 bits of RSA security good enough, and obviously today it's just not gonna cut it. So today the bare minimum you want to go with RSA is 2048, but in reality you really shouldn't go with anything below 3072 bits of RSA. But yes, there were times when we said that 512 bits of RSA is perfectly enough for the foreseeable future. But as soon as computers advanced, we just simply raise the key sizes. So this is the very same thing which will happen with Quan. If such, as the question is formulated, mighty computers will appear, then we will just simply bump the key sizes. So that's all that needs to be done. Because remember, the problem is exponentially hardening. So this is what you want to be looking out for. Next one, proof of randomness. I will take a sip. So, what is the difference between the value of the stakes and the deposit paid in Quantex token? If it is not based on the amount of stakes but the amount of deposit paid, how does this make a relevant change compared to proof of stake? So, okay. Let's go quite some steps back. So if we say that it's a bad thing that with more money you have more influence, yes it is, definitely, especially in such a democratic and decentralized system like a blockchain is meant to be, then we are gonna have a hard time, because the most democratic approach you might have, that being proof of work, is also related to this problem, because if you have all the money, then you can buy all the mining machines and then you have a major influence on the system. So there will be always some kind of bias towards the wealthier, because, well, they have more wealth, they have access to more resources, whatever those are stakes, those are deposits, those are mining rigs, or those are proof of randomness tickets. But let's step aside and compare, because the question is about this, how proof of stake and proof of randomness compares. With proof of stake, when you have a high enough stake, then you are more likely to be chosen to validate. With proof of randomness, when you get your ticket chosen, you will essentially point someone out to validate instead of you. And you don't know who you will point out in advance. So even if you buy more tickets and you get chosen, you don't get to verify that very block. So you will just randomly point at some kind of other validator you don't know in advance. So this is the main difference compared to proof of stake, where if you have the most stakes, then once you are picked, you get to validate that very block, which could lead to problems. Obviously, then you would lose your stakes. So there are some kind of other mitigations there. But proof of randomness is superior because of this, that you don't know ahead even yourself who's gonna get to validate that particular block. Next one. Will Quan have a layer 2 roll-up in a foreseeable future to compete with Ethereum layer 2 scaling networks? Sure, I mean, what do you mean foreseeable future? So obviously we are now polishing the testnet, the next stage is then the mainnet, and after the mainnet is running, then definitely the next main focus will be layer 2 scaling solutions. But yes, it's definitely up there, but we have closer milestones to hit right now. Next one. Many existing blockchains failed when huge amounts of dApps and NFTs are building on them. Even they claim they have a high ideal TPS. how can you overcome the speed issue? Well, this whole speed mystery is, and this is why we said that we will definitely release this tool to see the actual real world numbers. It's disastrous. I mean, what's happening on the market. Yes, if you have a blockchain which is properly decentralized and there are many decentralized applications used at the same time, many NFTs being minted and such, yes, the system is gonna get congested. If it doesn't, then you are most likely talking to a centralized service. So watch out, most likely you are not talking to a blockchain. So it is what it is. So this is inherent to the technologies. There is nothing really much, again, given a properly designed blockchain, that you can do against it. And I think this is fine. So this is what layer 2s are for, to offload excessive traffic and such. But properly designed system will unfortunately actually have these problems. Next one, will there be a demonstration of the 1600 transactions per second on testnet before mainnet? Yes, for sure. So this is why we are releasing this speed test tool, so you can measure that our 1600 TPS actually works, whereas the other competitors' claims are, well, just claims. Next one, would a 51% attack possible on this random protocol validator? Yes, again, this comes down to the parameters we will choose. Most likely we will go with the Byzantium fault tolerancy. So 51% attack would not be possible most likely, but again, we still need to choose the parameters. Next one, how can you prove that Kwon is faster than the leading blockchains? Again, I can just reflect back at my previous answer with this very open source tool, especially designed for this, to uncover the real truth about blockchain throughput on the market. We also got a lot of questions, here I see a side note about validation and node providing. Well, at this stage, as the testnet is rolled out at the moment, we have put nodes all across the planet at different cloud providers, so we try to create an as diverse mixture as possible, because we are now experimenting with a lot of parameters, timing. We have to measure the latencies, the throughputs, what's possible. We will definitely break stuff to really push it to the edge. And this is much easier until we figure out the real world parameters, because it's always very different running something on virtual machines and Docker containers than really putting actual nodes and servers across the planet. So until this experimental phase is completed, we will be running the nodes. After than that, we will release the compiled binaries, so you can run your testnet nodes at home as well. Another note, yes, and also about the mainnet launch, whether about the proof of randomness ticket prices and stuff like that. We are still in the designing phase. I mean, choosing the right parameters for proof of randomness, and one of them is not just technical parameters but also economical parameters. So this is still in the making, but as I said, first the testnet, then releasing the testnet out to the public. I mean, so you can also run your nodes at home, and the QVM inclusion. So these are topics still towards the mainnet milestone, whereas we have a lot of stuff to do now with the amazing testnet release. Next one, Quonex token related questions. So why one wallet is holding 40+% on both chains? So that wallet is, if you take a look at it, it's a smart contract. It's the Quonex bridge, which has been audited by CertiK. So this enables that you can, it's like a liquidity pool, but only for Quonex. So you deposit on one chain to this address, and you will withdraw from the very same address on the other side of the chain. So we get quite a lot of questions about this, although it's pretty clear, the audit is there, the smart contract is open source, but we will definitely discuss this and actually check the fluctuation. I mean, how much of that surplus is being moved in reality, and the excess might be just locked away for a year maybe or stuff like that. But it's important that this would mean that if someone would buy a lot of tokens on one side of the chain, and if we lock down the bridge tokens, essentially that big holder wouldn't be able to move his tokens, because the locked tokens then wouldn't be able to be released from the bridge. So we have to be really careful for choosing the right amount of tokens to be locked. But yes, this question pops up from time to time. Next one, when the mainnet will be launched, will QuantX tokens will be swapped into 1-to-1 ratio? Yes, of course, obviously. So for one QuantX, you will get one QuantX token. Next question, what is the vesting schedule for VC and IDO pool tokens? Those already expired, so let me check the notes. Yes, QuantX tokenomics is publicly available from the beginning, yes, along with the vesting schedule. And VC and IDO tokens were unlocked since August 31, 2021, approximately 5 months ago. So I've heard some messages about this, that quite some people are afraid that the VCs would dump it. I mean, they see the big picture, they know what they bought, and they know that this is just the start of the journey. If they wanted to sell their bags, they could have already done that like 5 months ago. So there's literally nothing holding them back from doing so. But they see what we are doing here, they see the effort, they agree with our vision, and I guess that's why they don't do it. As simple as that. Next one, is there any tax on PancakeSwap or Uniswap? No, there is no tax. No serious project does that really. When will be staking open again? Well, staking, I mean, to be honest, I was never a fan of staking, because I don't really get the point of it. I mean, if you are a solid project, then why would you need staking? Because staking, as far as I see it, is mostly offered so people stake their tokens and don't sell it, but as soon as the staking is over, they will sell them anyway. So why just not sell it now? So I mean, from a business standpoint, as a company, as a team, as a community, I just don't see any benefit in handing out free tokens to those who will not sell the tokens for another 2 months. Really, I don't get it. Someone please enlighten me. Give me some kind of explanations why staking is good for. So, but to answer the question, most likely staking itself, not really, but again, proof of randomness is something like staking, but that has actual purpose. So there is a logic behind it, there is economics behind it. So if you want to have tokens and buy proof of randomness tickets, then yes, that will be surely working. But just to open a staking pool for nothing, I don't really think we will be doing that. Next one, why isn't any token burn implemented? Again, token burn. So if you could describe it, why this would benefit the project, so please focus on the project, because that's what we are here for the long run. I mean, not just us, the team, but also you token holders. If you could give us an explanation why token burning would be good for the project in the long run, then we are more than happy to consider it. And last but not least, the golden question, when Binance? So thank you very much for the question. Definitely more centralized exchange listings will happen in 2022, but I cannot comment further. So while I cannot comment on the Binance listing, I definitely can comment on the upcoming great stuff. So as you might know, some of you have tried to connect to MetaMask with the release of the testnet. and some of you were experiencing some mysterious errors, others were just doing fine. And yes, we have confirmed that this was related to Cloudflare, and we have completely resolved the issue. So from tomorrow or actually even right now, you are already able to connect to MetaMask really easily and without any problems. And the next thing is logically in this step that once you are connected, then you will need some testnet tokens for testing, right? So we also launch the Faucet, which will disperse you free testnet tokens. This will be a Telegram bot where you just simply send your wallet address and it will send you back your testnet tokens you can start playing with. And then again, the next step is that even if you text this bot and even if you obtain your free tokens for testing, you won't be able to spend them. Remember, no post-quantum signature, no token sending. So this is where QuantXLink comes into play, whose documentation will be also released by tomorrow evening. This will be a really easy to install and run software, and if you have it running, then you will be able to transact without any issues. So also about the IBM Platinum Partner Audit, yes, there is a slight delay with that one because, well, audits are a cooperative process. I mean, there is consulting, there's findings, and we are essentially working together. So they are a great partner. Thank you very much for their cooperation. But it's definitely happening. And as you see, we already released the testnet, so we were confident enough with the current results that there won't be any issues, but again, this is a joint effort. And last but not least, the roadmap for 2022. So we are now in advanced discussions with a major partner, and we haven't signed any agreements yet, but if this happens, then that will be a huge plus. But the downside is that it will be bound to NDA, so until we have finished the integration, they will be using Quant technology as per the current negotiations. Until we have implemented it for them privately, we cannot disclose their name, only after the implementation was successful and they already started using it. So this heavily influences the roadmap for 2022. But all I can tell you is that definitely QVM is the next biggest milestone, as I told earlier, which stands for the multi-language functionality. So stay tuned, we will update the roadmap as soon as more information becomes available. Thank you very much for being today here with me, and thank you very much for your support and also for being together with us on this wonderful journey. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye bye.